All right. Can you guess which adjective students most often use to describe academic writing on pre-term surveys? Well, here are some examples from the last class I taught and did a survey for. Yeah. Uh, Again and again, people tend to use the word stressful to describe academic writing, and that's not even when it's multiple choice. Just like that's the word they come up with on their own. There are some other adjectives that come up, but they're all bad, right? uh, no one seems to like academic writing, at least at the start of these classes. Hopefully instruction can change that. Here's a picture that I think just kind of sums up how a lot of us might be feeling. Um, but why? Why? What's so stressful about it? Well, you're going to get a grade on it, I guess, but there's got to be more to it. It might help to think about the process that we have. When you think about an experienced writer, there is a process. Most writers that I talk to have really about 7 steps that they follow, and you can see them here in the order that they most often occur according to the writers that I talk to. I think some of these steps might be interchangeable, but there's a process here, right? You start by reading, and you gather your evidence or whatever, and then you start making connections. Like, oh, gee, a lot of these sources are talking about like faces or something. Maybe that's like an idea I can discuss. Some of this other stuff seems to be like about personality and art, and maybe I could put that together in another group, right? And then once you've got the groups, okay, I've got some stuff about attractive faces, I've got some stuff about attractive personalities, then that helps you get a sense about a topic. I'm talking about a topic like attraction to mates in general and a main idea, what you want to tell people about that. Maybe it's about evolution or something, right? That could change later on. From there, you can start working out the flow of ideas. That can start with paragraph to paragraph. So should I talk about physical beauty first, or should I talk about like personality and stuff first? That's a decision. But then also that you can think about the kind of the flow of ideas sentence to sentence. Like what is each sentence gonna do? From there, you can think about prose. Making, do I want to say, which word do I want to use? Do I want to say aesthetics or beauty? Finally, that leads to the proofreading, right? Are my commas in the right place? How am I citing these sources? Is really that last step, the format. Um, the thing though is that when you think about inexperienced writers, student writers, they probably don't have a process with 7 steps. They might have a process with like 2 steps or even one. And then you're trying to do all this stuff at once. It's like, okay, should I say beauty or aesthetics? Where's my example? And then you get the text, you go back into the book, and then it's like, oh wait, how am I supposed to cite sources? And what should I say next? And am I supposed to use 12-point font? And and it's like you're dealing with all these decisions at the same time. That's stressful. If I write like that, I get stressed out too. I have to remind myself to go back to this process. And in particular, to not worry about like making things sound nice right off the bat. If I just start by figuring out kind of the flow of ideas, and then I can worry about the other stuff later. So here's some kind of key takeaways from this. If writing gives you a headache, you're trying to do too much at once. And in particular, I'd like to stress this. I think a lot of us spend way more time writing than we should. I think that should be one of the things you spend the least amount of time on. If I spend 10 hours working on a writing assignment, probably about 7 of that is devoted to reading. Because if I read a lot, then I'll have a lot of information to work with. And if you know a decent amount about a subject, it's easy to write about it. What's really hard is when you're trying to write an essay and you have like three facts, and you're trying to spin these paragraphs, 1 fact per paragraph, and that's just tough to do. After reading, I spend the next most amount of time on outlining. I spend probably about twice as much time outlining as I do actually writing. And that's because if I can figure out the flow of ideas and just get that part set, then the actual writing part is easy because all I have to do is make things sound pretty, right? This might seem counterintuitive, but I think adding more steps to the process actually makes the process shorter. And it definitely makes it less stressful. And just to give you an example of all this, like, what this can turn into, here's something that I published a while back. It's about 1,600 words. I wrote this, like what you consider actual writing, on a 45-minute bus ride. All right. How was I able to write 1,600 words in 45 minutes on a bus? Because I'd spent a couple hours before that at a coffee shop outlining. So I knew exactly what I was doing. So, that's what my writing kind of process looks like there. I'd like you to reflect on yours.